What is going on YouTube? It is Mikey Chipmunks back with another Nintendo Switch reminiscing video. Today's topic is going to be my top 5 favorite Nintendo Switch games of all time. Now we still have a little bit of a wait before the Switch 2 releases and kind of want to go back down memory lane maybe once or a couple more times before the Switch 2 drops. Now I want to preface that this list is in no particular order. It's way too hard to pick between these games because these are a lot of solid choices, and understandably with a top 5 list, a lot of games are going to be omitted. I have a lot of favorite Switch games, but these 5 in particular really had a big impact on me. So without further ado, let's get into it. Kicking off this list is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm not gonna lie, this was a tough choice. I could have gone for the one that started it all, which is Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom edges out Breath of the Wild by a pretty sizable margin. Although Breath of the Wild always has that initial wow factor associated with it, Tears of the Kingdom took the elements that make its DNA and greatly expanded upon it, and it didn't seem possible. How was Nintendo going to top Breath of the Wild? I'll tell you how they did it. Roaming around the absolute behemoth that is Breath of the Wild's map was, pretty daunting at times. I'd literally just see what grabbed my attention first and hone in on it because there was just so much to do. Sometimes I'd spend a day just venturing to distant shrines to increase my stamina wheel or attempt to max out my hearts. Other days I'd spend in Hyrule just completing side missions. I felt like an absolute glutton with the amount of content to consume in Breath of the Wild. Now take that map and multiply it times 3. Both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom share the same map, at least the surface. There were now 2 other elevations to explore. You had the depths of Hyrule and the Sky Islands. I quickly found that $70 price tag to be completely justified, which was a first for a first-party Switch game. I must have put over 300 plus hours into Tears of the Kingdom, and have still not uncovered the entire map. I spent multiple days in a row just farming for Zonite and other materials, just to form a fully powered Fierce Deity Link set. That's not even an iota of a concept of what you're able to do in this game, man. Rune abilities of yore are replaced by the powers you gain through acquiring Raru's hand. I thought I'd seen it all with the rune abilities in Breath of the Wild, but I was sorely mistaken. The fact that I could just go around the map and fuse the stupidest contraptions I could think of greatly increased replayability. What other game has the ability to let you fuse an apple to a sword? And that's just one example. I remember my first night with the game marveling at my creations that Pablo Picasso would be proud of. I didn't make no peen bot, but materialized a few damn fine air contraptions if I do say so myself, so eat your heart out, right brothers? I feel like I'll always say this with every major Zelda release, but seriously, how are they gonna top Tears of the Kingdom? Judging by Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 editions, 2 of my favorite games of all time just became even better, albeit with a pretty sizable price increase, but that's another topic. Until that day comes, Tears of the Kingdom is the penultimate Zelda experience on the original Switch. It blows my mind that Nintendo were even able to get this game running on such ancient technology. Of course, Tears does struggle in certain areas. Famously, the Korok Forest was once again a technical bottleneck. People have since had a chance to play the Switch 2 editions of the game, and judging by the footage shown of different areas, including the Korok Forest, it runs buttery smooth. I'm looking forward to replaying Tears with a fresh coat of paint. Up next, we got Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This choice was an absolute no-brainer. Super Smash Bros. Is a franchise that is console-defining, console-selling, and a myriad of other words that end in ing. Rolling right along from the hype train that was Smash Wii U and 3DS, Smash Ultimate kept that momentum going for 3 strong years of additional development and support. Now, I already went pretty in-depth in my 8 years reflection video, so I recommend you check that out for a bigger breakdown of my thoughts. With that being said, Smash Ultimate gave me many of my most cherished gaming memories. And like I said in that video, it was something you had to be there for. It's not every day when we get a new Smash release, and boy does Sakurai and his team deliver every single time. The literal only other thing I could ever ask for at this point from this franchise is a full-fledged story mode akin to Subspace Emissary. I was only hoping that Smash Ultimate would have had that story with the amount of third-party reps they have now, but that would have been a considerable mountain to climb. Not that Smash Ultimate wasn't already a big one to begin with. And this time around, they really upped the ante with some of the most wild card character announcements. Some of these characters I would have never guessed on my bingo sheet, like Mr. Terry Bogard Blue Kazoo or Hero from Dragon Quest, but they made it in the game. I'm a huge fan of some of the new mechanics they incorporated, such as perfect shielding or parrying straight out of Street Fighter 3, which added an extra layer of depth to competitive play. Mastering it felt so satisfying as I completely nullified my opponent's efforts and laid waste to them. Ultimate cranked up the pace and it made all the difference. Fights are much faster, more chaotic, and a whole lot more fun, especially compared to the slower, floatier feel of something like Brawl. Of course, other nods to competitive Smash like easy short hops was a nice addition too, not that I needed it because I am a self-proclaimed Smash master after all. Quick story time for you guys. One day, me and my friends trekked to the King of Prussia Mall in PA in the middle of a snowstorm just to try Smash Ultimate, but somehow we went at the wrong time and we were told to come back the following day, and it is a day I will never forget. I immediately selected K. Rool, got his final smash in, and belly flopped a few fools for good measure. Up next we got Metroid Prime Remastered. Again, just like Tears of the Kingdom, this was also a really tough choice, and I wanted to give it to Metroid Dread since that's a true new exclusive. However, this is my list, and Metroid Prime Remastered edges it out by a small margin. I will definitely give a shout out to Metroid Dread because it takes the already impressive 2D lineup of Metroid games and just ups the ante, even adding like more survival horror elements than even Metroid Fusion. The nostalgia tied to this game is strong, yes, but I never actually finished the original. For some reason, it was just a bit too complex for me growing up, especially trying to understand that confusing 3D map. But as a full-grown adult, I had a much better grasp of how to read the map this time around and easily apply logic to once thought to be challenging boss encounters or guessing where a secret upgrade may be. I'm gonna sound like a broken record because I've said it many times, but that trailer that they dropped for Metroid Prime Remastered was so hype-inducing. Hearing the menu theme again, you know, just sends chills down my spine every single time. The graphics are arguably the best on the Switch. It's honestly some sort of technical wizardry how they were able to achieve the level of fidelity that they did on such a fossil of a console. I walked around that space frigate, which is the introductory area, and just taking in all the sights around me. I love how all the different biomes looked in this game. Talon 4 really took the cake. The lush jungle environment that already looked good on the GameCube looked even more exquisite this time around. And Nintendo had the audacity to shadow drop this game shortly after that February Nintendo Direct. Damn, Nintendo bled me dry as per usual, because they also announced the digital and physical versions would launch 2 weeks apart. I couldn't help myself, I double dipped so fast. I remember I had work later that night too. I was pretty pissed off I had to be taken away from my preciousnesses. Such is life. There isn't much more that I can add that I didn't already explain in my review of the game back when it came out, so be sure to give that a watch for more in-depth insights on my thoughts. Metroid Prime Remastered is a masterclass in fan service, and admittedly, I'm somewhat of a Nintendo guy, so double dipping was well worth it. Speaking of atmospheric games with horror elements, we got Kirby in the Forgotten Land, the game I always dreamed of as a kid. A true as blue, full-on 3D Kirby adventure. Ever since roaming around City Trial from Kirby Air Ride, I always longed for a grand-scale Kirby experience in the whimsical third dimension. I'd literally hop off my Warp Star just to run around and float as Kirby, soaking in that brief glimpse of what a 3D Kirby could be like. I know I wasn't alone either, because there had to be tons of other kids doing the exact same thing, just chasing that same feeling for a game that didn't exist. Yet, well, we finally got it, and HAL Laboratory absolutely delivered, crafting what might be the best Kirby game ever made. It's a bit of a shame though, because I still think Forgotten Land is underrated. People just don't seem to talk about it enough. Kirby has always leaned into that laid-back platforming charm that is until you're suddenly face to face with an eldritch horror in the final act. Yeah, Marks, I'm looking at you, just like your piercing gaze through my soul. Forgotten Land absolutely nails that balance. It was a joy to kick back, relax, and get immersed in this vibrant, cozy world. Each level felt like a little playground of creativity, bursting with color, charm, and secrets waiting around every corner. I really enjoyed the concept of a world left behind the time and ruin, almost like Nier Automata for kids. The abandoned shopping mall adorned in greenery feels like nature itself is gently reclaiming the forgotten world, creating a strangely peaceful post-apocalypse. Nothing like taking down Wispy Woods for the umpteenth time, except now he's chunkier and sporting a nice soul patch if I do say so myself. Oh wait, this is Tropic Woods that screams Surf Shack Tito from Rocket Power, as opposed to our favorite apple spewing, puffball spitting, paper making material known as Wispy Woods. Everbay Coast has got to be my favorite area of the game, soaking in the sun while taking a peaceful dip in calm blue waters. As you progress through the game, you are able to upgrade your copy abilities into even wackier, more powerful versions. The Kirby games always did a profound job of making you feel, big and mighty, as the all-powerful pink puffball should be. There were so many options by the time I beat the game, it made my head spin. Kirby in the Forgotten Land gives you such a bang for your buck too, as there's a healthy amount of replayability with the amount of objectives to complete and collectibles to obtain. You can return to previously completed levels to obtain star coins and hidden blueprints needed to evolve copy abilities and unlock them respectively. There is even a post-game I yet to complete with my staggering backlog, but now that an enhanced version has been announced for the Switch 2, I will transfer my progress over to that version, clean up the main course, and prepare myself for the newly announced Star-Crossed World expansion. Let's do a quick recap before we get to the final game. Up first is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Metroid Prime Remastered, Kirby in the Forgotten Land, and right before we get to the last one, I want to give a runner-up. It was a toss-up between Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and ultimately I'm gonna go with the latter. Between the base game and Torn of the Golden Country, I must have sunk over 100 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It features such a robust combat system that I instantly fell in love with. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 rewards experimentation with blade combinations, gradually unlocking new options and encouraging you to refine builds for your party. By the time I wrapped up the game, Mithra was a non-stop crit machine. It was so easy for me to fall in love with the characters as well. And I didn't touch upon it too much in my Switch reflection video, but things start out a bit slow until you become well acquainted with your party. While Poster Girl, Pyra, and Mithra appear as nothing more than just fan service, they're actually well-written characters with a tragic backstory that I will not spoil. Jin is another one of my favorite characters, as he features a deep backstory, and you gotta play Torna to fully embrace his character. Looks like I may need a separate video to dig in some more, huh? Dude, did I mention the soundtrack? You better get your ticket punched for this unsolicited field trip you're about to go on. And ladies and gentlemen, will you please put your hands together for my final choice on this list, the one and only Super Mario Odyssey! A game that is packed to a cheap's gills and whimsy and wonder. You know when a new 3D Mario comes along, a new gimmick is just waiting around the corner. You know, Mario Sunshine had the Flood, Galaxy had the Star Spin, etc. But what those games did not have was Cappy, one of the most captivating new additions to the Mario franchise. With Cappy's debut, Mario embraces multiple new gameplay styles, each one bursting at the seams of his overalls with fun and creativity, from loafing around as a slab of meat to becoming a literal T-Rex. It was such a blast to ride the titular ship towards new worlds and discovering new enemies to take control of. You should have seen my face in total shock and awe as I took control of Bowser in the final act of some Sonic Adventure 2-ass music blasting in the background. And the wildest part was actually in the middle of a power outage when it happened, making that night even more unforgettable. Elaborating a bit more on my Mario Odyssey section from my Switch reflection video was the absolute bop that was Jump Up Superstar. Nintendo knew exactly how much impact that song would have on players' hearts and ears that they included the lyrics on the inside of the case. First of all, it was such a pleasant surprise to see Pauline return in such a big way, going from a damsel in distress to New Donk's mayor that's best dressed. It was such a cool evolution of her character that left me wanting more appearances after that. Thankfully, she is here to stay. And speaking of New Donk City, for those eagle-eyed players out there, all the street names are named after other Donkey Kong characters, such as Cranky Avenue or Dixie Street. As if that wasn't enough, you could roam the grassy knoll of Peach's castle and find familiar nods to Mario's low-poly debut. Yes, Yoshi included. Super Mario Odyssey feels good to play too. It has that undeniable Nintendo seal of quality all over it. Like in previous 3D Mario outings, there's plenty of tech for players to experiment with, though in Super Mario Odyssey, the dial is turned up to 11. Mario can lay Cappy out in front of him to gain massive height, to which you can then ground pound jump immediately into a dive. You can also place Cappy in mid-air and dive into him for an added boost. Koopa foot races are a blast, seeing how fast I can blaze through them using all the movement tech I've picked up is super satisfying. Each locale in the game feels like a living, breathing creature that you'd find in one of its many biomes, much like the serene seascape of Everbay Coast from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Bublane, which resides in the Seaside Kingdom, feels like a dreamy escape, a coastal paradise surrounded by carbonated oceans set against a stunning sunset that envelops the scene like a beach blanket hugging the warm sand, and the accompanying score only deepened my immersion with soft notes and a breezy melody that entranced me, leaving me in a state of total tropical bliss. Perfect for studying and meditation too. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my top 5 Nintendo Switch games of all time. I'd like to hear what you guys think. What are some of your favorite Nintendo Switch games of all time? Reminisce with me in the comments section. And as always, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe.